As an apprentice, I earned 300 shillings a month, and I had to give 100 shillings to my parents so we could eat. In 1997, 2 babies were born in California, 5 days apart, with the same father. Arnold Schwarzenegger kept this explosive secret for 14 years, during which his housekeeper brought the child to his house daily. The boy grew taller, stronger, and looked just like him. Nobody said a word until that moment in therapy, when his parents finally spoke up. Arnold Schwarzenegger's father, Gustav, was the post-war police chief of a small Austrian village. Gustav was a harsh, authoritarian man who had been haunted by the horrors of World War II. He had survived being buried alive for 3 days, but he never let go of the trauma he had experienced. Arnold and his older brother Arnold lived in constant fear of what their father would do to them. Arnold eventually agreed, but the family never fully recovered from the impact of those 3 letters. Arnold didn't want to stay in that world. He wanted to escape and become somebody. He worked as early as 4 years old, forced to earn his breakfast by picking flowers for their mother, and was subjected to screaming and beatings when Gustav drank. Arnold said that this kind of violence was common in Austria, and that it left broken men all over the country. Arnold didn't crumble under the weight of his brother Minhard's sensitivity, creativity, and intelligence. In contrast, Arnold battled to break free of Minhard's regimen of 200 sit-ups and push-ups every morning, regardless of the weather. Then came football practice and homework, which included completing 10-page reports with every error highlighted in red and each word rewritten 50 times. Gustav believed that this kind of pressure built character. Arnold turned inward, drank excessively, and lost his father a year later. Arnold refused to let the scars define him, and at the age of 14, something changed. At the age of 24, Minhard died in a drunk driving crash in Kitzbühel, where he had hit a telephone pole. Arnold, who was already in America pursuing his dreams, did not attend the funeral, and many didn't understand why. Arnold later explained, "The thing that made me who I am destroyed me." Arnold's life was completely transformed when he noticed men lifting weights and shaping their bodies into pure muscle at a gym near Thaler Sea Lake. His coach brought the team there, and Arnold was immediately captivated. Iron quickly became his obsession. By the time he was 15, he was training 6 days a week, while most of his teammates were barely getting in 3. Arnold devoured bodybuilding magazines and watched every movie he could find. By the time he was 18, he had won Junior Mr. Europe, and at the age of 20, he had become the youngest ever Mr. Universe. Arnold discovered a new sport and achieved a new level of success. However, there was another aspect to his story that he couldn't overlook. His father Gustav had joined the Nazi Party in 1938 and was officially accepted in 1941. Gustav was more than just a member. He was a member of the SA, the brown-shirt stormtroopers. Gustav served as a master sergeant in the Nazi military police and fought in brutal battles from Leningrad to Poland for years. Arnold remained silent, but in 1990 he approached the Simon Wiesenthal Center with his father's story. Arnold never denied or downplayed Gustav's full involvement in the war crimes that had been covered up in earlier reports. Instead, he used the situation to his advantage, speaking out publicly against hate, violence, and the repetition of the broken men he had witnessed as a child. At the age of 19, Arnold took his first daring step, leaving Austria for Munich with nothing but a suitcase and a dream, having completed his 9 months of mandatory army service. Arnold entered a whole new world as he stepped off the train. The city was massive, noisy, and intimidating, but he told himself, "This is going to be my new home." He settled into a one-room apartment on Christophstrasse and lived with other bodybuilders, like Franco Columbu. Money was tight, so sometimes he slept in a storage room at the gym, but it didn't matter. He was finally at his place. He worked as a gym trainer at Schillerstrasse 36, who was barely scraping by, trained for 5 to 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. He dedicated himself to strengthening his weak areas, his calves, thighs, and arms, by performing as many as 60 sets in each session. Arnold maintained strict self-discipline, not drinking or smoking, and even had bodybuilders as roommates. They trained together and even had side gigs. Continued to support one another, the gym transformed into more than just a place to lift weights. It became a home away from home. Then, in September 1967, at the tender age of 20, Arnold achieved his breakthrough win at Mr. Universe in London. He had previously competed, but lost to the American favorite Dennis Tenorino. Arnold's size, shape, and showmanship were unparalleled. Upon returning to Munich, he posed shirtless in the snow for a photo. The world began to notice Arnold's training methods, which were extreme and controversial. Arnold believed in overkill and trained twice a day, 6 days a week. He trained chest, back, legs, calves, and abs in the morning and then again in the evening. Winning wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Arnold would go on to win Mr. Universe 5 times and Mr. Olympia 7 times. Arnold admitted to using steroids, specifically dianabol and testosterone, starting in his late teens. He claimed to have taken them under doctor's supervision in small doses. He would train his shoulders, biceps, and triceps in the morning, and then his calves and abs at night. Experts warned that he would burn out if he continued to lift weights 20 to 30 pounds more than his competition weight, but he didn't listen. Arnold believed that you had to shock the muscles to grow. Of course, not all of the growth came naturally. He was candid about the struggles he faced when he stepped off the plane in October 1968 with a duffel bag, a heavy accent, and just $20 in his pocket. At the time, steroids weren't illegal, and the culture was very different. Despite this, some of his former gym mates claimed he used more than he admitted, and that he introduced others to them. Arnold Schwarzenegger was only 21 years old. He was born in a small Austrian village after World War II, where he endured harsh poverty, strict discipline, and frigid winters. By the time he was 20 years old, he had already become Mr. Universe, but that wasn't enough. America represented the fulfillment of his dream, a dream that began when he was 10 years old. In his early days, he struggled to understand menus and slang, and people made fun of him. However, the bodybuilding community offered him support and encouragement. He was taken in by strangers, who gave him dishes, blankets, and even a TV. Joe Weider, the man behind the biggest bodybuilding events, gave him a place to stay and paid him just enough to train full-time. Arnold never forgot that kindness. Even when Mr. Olympia tried splitting the competition, he continued to win year after year. He was unbeatable from 1970 to 1975. Competing in weight classes, Arnold stunned everyone in 1980 by winning his 7th title on the road to a comeback. His first win had netted him $1,000, but by 1980 the prize money had risen to $25,000. Arnold didn't rely solely on his physical prowess to win. He also used his mind. Just hours before a major fight, he sat down with Lou Ferrigno for breakfast and told him he looked almost ready, sowing doubt. The show ran smoothly, thanks to Lou Freeman's meticulous planning. Arnold, on the other hand, approached weightlifting with an artistic bent. His 22-inch biceps became legendary, and he trained them many times a week using brutal, high-volume routines. But he didn't merely curl for hours. He focused deeply, connecting his mind to every movement he performed. Arnold meticulously sculpted his biceps, down to the last detail. When the camera started rolling in 1977 with Pumping Iron, the film popularized bodybuilding and made Arnold a household name. However, not everything in the film was real. For example, there was a scripted scene where Arnold faked a rivalry with two other bodybuilders for dramatic effect. Arnold, unfazed, played along. He embraced his role as the villain, the calculating champion, and leaned into it. It garnered attention and worked, but when he attempted to break into acting, Hollywood mocked him for his accent, hated his name, and advised him to play villains, Nazis, or any other type of villain he didn't identify with. The leading men of the 1970s were small, intelligent, and quiet, but Arnold persisted and made his debut in Hercules in New York in. After an uncomfortable name change to Arnold Strong in voiceover, the film bombed for 5 years, and he received few major offers. Finally, in 1976, his luck turned around when he landed a role in Stay Hungry. His charisma and charm shone through, and he won a Golden Globe for Best Acting Debut. His breakthrough came in 1982, when he starred in Conan the Barbarian, a film that earned $79 million worldwide on a $20 million budget. "I'll be back." Those 3 words changed history in 1984, when Arnold featured in The Terminator for a meager $6. His height, accent, and unusual screen presence became assets, not weaknesses. He nearly had his line, "I'll be back," deleted because he thought it sounded strange, but director James Cameron saved the day, and the film made $78 million. From 1985 to 1991, Arnold had a string of successful films that propelled him to legendary status. Commando grossed $57 million, Predator made $98 million, and Red Heat Raw Deal was just the beginning. Arnold wasn't content to be an actor, he was also shaping the action film genre. However, in 1988, he shocked everyone once again with a comedy twins film starring Danny DeVito. The idea. Super Mario Bros. 2 was released in 1990 with a budget of $65 million. It was one of the most expensive films ever made, featuring groundbreaking special effects. The film grossed $261 million worldwide, despite having 2 brothers who didn't resemble each other at all. Arnold DeVito, the director, and the rest of the cast skipped salaries in favor of a share of the profits, which totaled over $35 million. This proved that Arnold could do more than just blow things up. Transformers: Revengeance, released in 1991 with a record-breaking $12 million budget, went on to earn over $517 million globally. The effects were revolutionary, and Arnold became the highest-paid actor in the world with $15 million. The film solidified Arnold's position as the top action movie star, and by 1993, he had been officially named the International Star of the Decade. In 1996, Arnold Schwarzenegger was living the high life as a world-renowned action hero, married to Maria Shriver, a member of the influential Kennedy family, and preparing for a political career. However, behind closed doors, he was involved in a risky double life. In the midst of Maria's pregnancy with their 4th child, Arnold secretly started an affair with Mildred Baena, longtime housekeeper, but the scandal was over more than just the affair. What really set it apart was the timing. On September 27, 1997, Maria gave birth to their son Christopher. Less than 5 days later, Mildred gave birth to Joseph Arnold's secret child. Both women were pregnant at the same time, and no one suspected a thing. On paper, Joseph's birth certificate listed another man, Mildred's husband Roelio Baena, as the father. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse in 2003, when Arnold was running for governor of California. The Los Angeles Times dropped a bombshell accusing him of groping 15 women, shattering Joseph's marriage, and tearing the family apart. Joseph became estranged from his half-siblings, and Mildred had to leave Bakersfield to escape the turmoil. The allegations against Arnold go back over 30 years, and include specific instances of sexual advances, such as pulling a woman onto his lap and making lewd comments. Another woman said he removed her swimsuit in a lift, and still others described being touched on film sets. The media dubbed this scandal Grokegate, but Arnold chose not to let it derail his campaign. He won the election with nearly 49% of the vote, claiming that the claims were made up. When you see a blonde with great tits and a great ass, you say she must be stupid. His comments in a 2003 interview with Esquire shocked even longtime fans, and he later confessed in a Netflix documentary titled, "Forget all the excuses, it was wrong." His behavior off-screen only served to fuel the fire. Critics accused him of sexual misconduct and deeply ingrained sexism, while his defenders claimed it was all part of his macho image. However, evidence began to pile up, and it wasn't just words. One of the most disturbing stories came from Carla Barron, a stand-in on the set of Twins in 1988. Barron said that Arnold and another man sandwiched her, and then Arnold, after smoking a cigar, shoved his. Arnold achieved a remarkable feat in politics on October 7, 2003, when he became governor of California by defeating 4 opponents in a recall election. Despite this, she lost her temper with him and slapped him, telling him he should never do it again. He apologized, but she knew she couldn't stand up to him in the industry that idolized its stars. Her story, supported by others on set, became a notorious example of the taboos surrounding powerful men in Hollywood. Arnold became only the second foreign-born governor in California's history after Gray Davis was ousted. 2 million people voted for him, with 43% of those voters being women, an astounding figure given the timing of the allegations, and 18% of Democrats also supporting him. The election itself was surreal, with campaign buses named after his movies like Total Recall and Running Man. According to Arnold, in 2004, when Democrats opposed his budget plan, he publicly mocked them, saying things like, "They are girly men." This line received approval from his base, but outrage from the opposition, who deemed it sexist and homophobic. Arnold was accused of blatant homophobia by State Senator Sheila Quayle and others of bringing political discourse into a lower level. Descended from his macho image, Arnold's spokesperson made it clear that no apology would be forthcoming. Arnold frequently utilized this image as a political weapon. However, despite his tough guy persona, he started pushing progressive policies in 2007. In 2007, he proposed a $12 billion universal health care plan that aimed to cover all 500,000 uncovered Californians, including those without proper documentation. In 2006, he took a stand against climate change by endorsing the Global Warming Solutions Act, which positioned California as the nation's leader in reducing emissions. This move garnered him praise from environmental groups and scorn from his Republican base, but it was a shared responsibility plan that he defended. Conservatives were outraged, liberals were shocked, and individuals were required to purchase health insurance. Employers were also compelled to contribute financially to insurers. "Yes, Joseph is my son." Undid 25 years of marriage, the betrayal stung even more because of the timing. Joseph was born in October 1997. Christopher Maria's youngest child with Arnold was born just 5 days earlier. The affair had happened in 1996, while Maria and the kids were away, and Arnold was filming Batman and Robin. Not long after the confession, Maria packed up and left. She filed for divorce within months. Arnold would later say, "I caused pain, deep pain for Maria, for the kids, eh?" Mother Mildred pulled Joseph out of school and told him, "We have to leave, everyone knows now." Joseph learned the truth at the age of 13, not from his father, but from the media. In 2011, news vans parked outside his Bakersfield home, cameras ready to capture a glimpse of the boy who had just become international tabloid material. Joseph, who was in 8th grade and still trying to figure out who he was, told Arnold. It all changed overnight. My body was changing. My mind was changing. Now my life had just flipped. Arnold and Joseph would later become close, bonding through fitness and training, but in those early days, Joseph felt the world turned against him. Maria, on the other hand, was devastated by a depth of pain that transcended mere betrayal. She had recently lost both of her parents, Aunt Eunice and Sergeant Shriver, between 2009 and 2011, completely shattering her emotional foundation. Now, her marriage had also ended, and she felt as though she had lost her very identity. In July 2011, she recounted being overwhelmed by feelings of grief, fear, anger, and shame. Despite her best efforts, the legal process for her divorce from her husband, citing irreconcilable differences, took a long time and was not finalized until 2021. During this time, Maria sought solace in various forms of alternative medicine, including therapy, meditation, shamans, and psychics. The breakdown of her marriage was not only a personal tragedy, but also a highly publicized scandal involving the Kennedy legacy in Hollywood, and Maria stood at the center of it all, attempting to hold on. Arnold attempted a comeback in 2010 with a brief appearance in The Expendables. The film was shot in just 2 hours, but fans went crazy seeing him alongside Stallone and Bruce Willis again, evoking serious nostalgia. In 2012's Expendables 2, his role expanded, giving the impression that he was back. However, by the time Expendables 3 came around, he was unhappy, believing the script was weak and his character was useless. He walked away from the 4th film, meaning his comeback failed to have the punch he had envisioned, but audiences had already moved on. The action hero of the 1980s was now in his 60s, and although fans still held him in high esteem, the world had changed and his peak had passed. Fast forward to 2015, when Arnold reprised the role that had made him famous. With a budget of around $155 million, the goal was obvious: to revive the franchise and restore his star power. Unfortunately, the U.S. box office opening was only $28, falling short of expectations. It only made $44 after 5 days of $7 million. Studios had hoped that China would carry the film, but Western audiences had lost interest, and the international total of $74 million was still insufficient. The picture became one of Terminator's worst performers ever. Arnold's iconic line, "Old but not obsolete," was unable to salvage the situation. When Arnold's campaign for governor in 2003 was underway, the Los Angeles Times published a bombshell story in which multiple women accused him of groping and inappropriate behavior. Arnold denied the allegations and called the story made up. However, by 2023, in the midst of the campaign, deeper issues had already begun to surface. In the Netflix documentary series Arnold, he came clean about his paternity of a child with a housekeeper. He told the women, "Forget all the excuses," and admitted that he was wrong. More than 15 women had come forward with similar claims, some dating back 30 years. His late apology was a powerful moment of reckoning. It didn't erase the past, but it demonstrated that even icons can be forced to face the truth. Arnold Schwarzenegger was once again in the news in 2022 for a 4-car accident in Los Angeles. He was driving a black GMC Yukon when it crashed into a red Toyota Prius on Sunset Boulevard. Arnold was unharmed, but the woman in the Prius, Cheryl Augustine, suffered from head trauma and brain hemorrhage. 2 other cars were also involved in the crash. Arnold attempted to remain close with all 5 of his children, including Joseph Baena, despite his affair destroying his marriage. Her lawyer said she was now permanently disabled. She filed a lawsuit accusing him of reckless driving and claimed he refused to accept responsibility. The Los Angeles Police Department determined no drugs or alcohol were involved in the crash, but it still demonstrated how a single moment behind the wheel could have lifelong consequences for someone else. While Joseph has carved out his own path in life, he has acted in small films, competed on Dancing with the Stars in 2022, landed on the cover of Men's Health, and works as a real estate agent. He also makes it a point to be present at public events with his children, Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher, whom he had with Maria. Joseph praises all of them in interviews and online, celebrating birthdays, milestones, and achievements. I finished a triathlon. Joseph looks and moves like his dad, but he's determined to make his own mark in the world. The only thing that hasn't healed, though, is the rift between him and his half-siblings, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher. Despite sharing a father and being born 5 days apart, Joseph doesn't really know any of them. He wasn't invited to Catherine's wedding, and he likes their social media posts without engaging with them. Even though Arnold tries to bring them together, the emotional scars remain deep. Joseph, being the silent witness to a secret that blew up his family, is a constant reminder of the betrayal that he and his mother were compelled to leave when the news broke. Arnold has repeatedly stated that this, more than any film or political failure, has devastated their family. "I did this and everyone suffered." He has apologized to Maria, the kids, and the women who accused him of misconduct. He has tried to be better, but the price has already been paid. He says he never wants Joseph to feel unwanted because of his mistake. That may be the most honest thing he has ever said. His biggest regret is the business deal he calls the biggest failure of his life. Anything Arnold has ever said because, although his fame, movies, and muscular physique made him a legend, it was his setbacks that